Relive the horrifying moments when 3 family members, police say, were intentionally struck by a vehicle.
I feel sorry for the family. It was brutal. The way she died was horrible. It was horrible.
A woman is dead. 2 others are injured. What we've just learned from police about the suspect in custody. We're live at the scene of a North York apartment building gripped by a police investigation.
He was known to police having committed several violent offenses against women.
Plus, cracking a cold case, how police say DNA technology helped them identify the killer of a 16-year-old girl found dead in the 1970s.
It's the most wonderful time of the year.
And the Bare Naked Ladies on hand at the Eaton Center tonight for the annual lighting of its Christmas tree. I'm Chris Glover with breaking news details. Just coming into the newsroom within the last hour tonight, homicide detectives in North York just gave an update on the 3 people believed to be intentionally struck by a vehicle in the parking lot of an apartment building. 1 woman was killed, 2 others were injured, but are expected to survive. Here's more from police.
We have learned that this was an intentional act on the part of the arrested party. We also have received information that the parties involved are known to each other. So there is no further or ongoing risk to the public.
And Anam Khan is live at the crime scene tonight. Anam, police also telling us a few moments ago that the woman who was killed is in her 60s. And I know that you've been speaking with her neighbors there at the building. And a warning to our audience tonight, they are sharing disturbing details about what they say that they saw this afternoon. Walk us through what they're telling you.
So people are describing a pretty gruesome scene in the parking lot behind me at 12:40 p.m. this afternoon, and one resident is still shaking because he saw the entire scene unfold in front of him.
I heard some arguing.
Derek Bailey says he stepped out on his balcony this afternoon after hearing some people arguing outside. A few minutes later, he says he saw a woman get run over by a car.
She was mangled.
Bailey says he saw a vehicle run into pedestrians multiple times, dragging a woman beneath the car.
He backed out again, ran her over a 3rd time. At that point, he ran over her head. He drove around the circle, came back around, and ran her over like a 4th time.
Late tonight, police confirming 3 people were struck by a vehicle. 1 of them was killed.
As a result of their injuries, 1 adult female succumbed to her injuries at the hospital. The other persons have been treated, and their injuries are deemed at this point to be non-life-threatening.
The car, now part of the evidence, towed late this evening. Police say they believe the pedestrians were struck intentionally, and that's why the homicide unit is investigating. Officers believe the suspect and the victims are family members. Rudy Wechtel lives in the apartment complex. He says he saw the man in the car after the attack.
The driver was sitting in the car. He could have driven out easily because there was nobody, no ambulance here, no police here. You could have just easily driven out, but he was just sitting in the car.
The cell phone video was shot by one of the residents, showing a man in a white car being arrested by police. Several residents say the man arrested also lives in the apartment complex.
He was living on the 2nd floor, and I heard some people had already problems with him over the last couple of years.
After the incident, many residents say they're shocked an incident like this would take place in their quiet neighborhood.
I've lived here like 8 years now, and it's the first time I've ever seen anything close to this.
It's still a very active scene at the apartment here tonight. Earlier today, I saw police guarding an apartment. He said that it belonged to the accused. And at the press conference just an hour ago, they told me that they laid a murder charge, and they're expecting to lay more charges.
All right, Anam Khan reporting live for us tonight in North York. Thank you, Anam. Over to York Region now, where police say they've cracked a 50-year-old murder case using DNA technology. In 1972, the body of 16-year-old Yvonne LaRue was found along a country road in King Township. Her family and investigators had been searching for the killer ever since. And now finally, all these decades later, police say they have an answer. Dale Manukduk has that story.
She was living a life like any other teenager would at that time. And unfortunate circumstances ended in her death.
16-year-old Yvonne LaRue was last seen alive on November 29, 1972, near Oakdale Road and Finch Avenue West in North York. The day after, LaRue's body was discovered here in King Township along 16th Side Road between Jane and Keel Street, some 24 kilometers away from where she was last seen alive. Police say it was here where she was murdered, and her family has been searching for answers ever since. Generations of detectives worked on the case. Eventually, the trail went cold. $50,000 rewards were issued, and still nothing. But police never gave up, eventually turning to investigative genetic genealogy, or IgG, a tool that allowed them to match a 51-year-old DNA sample from the crime scene with genealogical databases. They found relatives, which led them to the person they believe killed LaRue.
We identified Yvonne's killer as Bruce Charles Cantillon. Bruce Cantillon was a 26-year-old who was living in Toronto at the time. He was known to police having committed several violent offenses against women.
Police say Cantillon had been incarcerated several times due to mental health issues. In 1974, 19 months after the murder, he took his own life. If he was alive today, he'd be facing a murder charge.
The relatives were cooperative. Extremely difficult for them as well, learning 51 years later that someone they knew had done something so horrible.
As for LaRue's family, they were notified last week. They've asked for privacy, but issued a statement, writing in part, "For over half a century, our family has wondered. Getting some answers will never change what happened or bring her back. We hope that more funding will become available for new advancements in DNA genealogy so that more grieving families can have some form of clarity." York Regional Police say they are applying IgG to several cold case investigations. Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Toronto.
Now to the spiraling cyber incident under investigation at the Toronto Public Library. Again today, library officials saying it is worse than first thought. Now they're saying a large number of digital files were stolen in that ransomware attack last month.
We have a team called Connect-TO, and we'll examine what we can do to secure all public information.
Mayor Olivia Chow committing today to a city review of the security of its services. Originally, after the October 27th attack, the library said there was no evidence personal information of staff or users was compromised as a result of the cyber incident. Now, however, a very different update. Library officials say personal information is among the files that were allegedly stolen, such as names and social insurance numbers of employees. Officials are concerned the stolen data may end up on the dark web.
Whoa! Departure 128. Go around.
You see every day video showing a shaky landing for passengers flying into Pearson Airport on Monday. The Air Canada flight with 373 people on board was arriving from Japan when it was battered by crosswinds, sending the aircraft tipping from side to side. Air Canada calling it a hard landing, saying as a precautionary measure, the aircraft was inspected before it was returned to service. There were no injuries reported, but Air Canada says that it is now reviewing that incident. Looking live at the city tonight, 5 degrees and clear skies. Watch out for fog patches developing through the overnight. And Victor Paulo is here now with a first look at our forecast. Hey there, Victor.
Chris, hope you're having yourself a fantastic evening and I hope your day was excellent. How about that weather that we had here in the Greater Toronto Area? Now, one thing about that beautiful weather, we're expecting more above seasonal temperatures when it comes to your Thursday, but we are also expecting some cooler nights as we do get later on in the week. Now, we are expecting rain on Friday, but the good news is it looks like we won't be expecting too much flurries, if any, coming, but there is a chance as the temperatures will be dropping. But when it comes to right now, we're talking about average high is 7.1 and minus 0.5 is your average low. So when you're looking at watches and warnings in the area, one place I'd like to note is from Toronto stretching all the way up to Kingston, we do have some severe wind, and that's going to last all the way through till Friday at midnight. Now, tomorrow morning when my little Emmy and your little ones are getting ready, it's going to be a bit chilly start to the day, but there will be sun and cloud, 3 degrees, feeling like -2. And when it comes to your 3-day forecast, a couple of things to note. It's going to be a gorgeous Thursday to start the day with a low of 7 degrees. Friday's going to be 13 with that low of 0. And you can't see a chance of flurries when it comes to Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But make sure you stay tuned to Chris and I to see what else is in store for your 3- and 7-day forecast.
Next to the fallout tonight from a CBC Toronto exclusive that we shared with you last night. Documents we uncovered show the Ford government pays a for-profit clinic far more than it pays hospitals to do identical OHIP-covered surgeries. Our senior reporter at Queen's Park, Mike Crawley, broke the story and is tracking the reaction to it today.
The next question, the member for Nickel Belt.
Merci, monsieur. Yesterday, CBC reported that privately owned Don Mills Surgical Suite.
In question period, the NDP's health critic highlights the revelation that the government funds this for-profit clinic at double the rate it funds public hospitals for certain surgeries.
The #1 goal of a private clinic is to make money.
One example, arthroscopic knee surgery. For each operation, the province gives a hospital up to $1,700. Don Mills Surgical Unit gets more than $4,000.
We have a private, for-profit company that is performing the easiest surgeries on the least complex patients during the most convenient times of the day with the least oversight, yet they get to charge the most to the healthcare system.
With the health minister not at Queen's Park today, her parliamentary assistant defends the funding deal.
Our government is taking action to deliver more publicly funded procedures to reduce wait times for people and to reduce the surgical backlog.
The government says the private clinic gets more money than hospitals per surgery to cover its overhead.
These centres have higher costs because they're purchasing equipment or renting equipment in some cases because of their one-time funding.
Senior officials from various Ontario hospitals say there's no way those costs account for the much higher funding the province gives the for-profit surgical clinic. Related to all this, the former health minister, Christine Elliott, facing scrutiny today. She recently became a lobbyist for the company that owns the clinic.
You have a former Minister of Health now working for a company whose shareholders are benefiting very much by this government's privatization of healthcare in this province.
During Elliott's time as health minister, the province's annual funding to the clinic quadrupled. CBC News asked her for comment today, but did not receive a response. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
And the provincial government teaming up with the feds to combat gender-based violence in Ontario, an issue Toronto and many other municipalities have declared an epidemic. $162 million will be used to ramp up prevention efforts and strengthen existing support programs. Tyler Cheese has all the details.
Along with the physical harm, there is a really heavy emotional toll, a financial and mental toll that survivors carry for the rest of their lives.
Canada's Minister for Women and Gender Equality hopes new funding will help break an intergenerational cycle of violence.
I am announcing a federal contribution of $162 million over 4 years to the Government of Ontario.
The funding will support Ontario's implementation of the National Action Plan to End Gender-Based Violence, first announced last fall. The announcement comes just weeks after a man killed a woman and 3 children in Sault Ste. Marie, police calling it a case of intimate partner violence. That incident prompted the city to follow other municipalities, including Peel Region, in declaring intimate partner violence an epidemic. Those who work at Brampton's Safe Centre of Peel say the number of women fleeing violence has more than tripled since 2020.
Before the pandemic, we were getting 500 referrals a year into the Safe Centre of Peel, and then through the pandemic, with the introduction of Peel Regional Police's Intimate Partner Violence Unit, our numbers have gone to 1,800.
It's that rise in violence that led to the centre expanding to a second location in Mississauga.
We really want to make sure that women in Mississauga have that access to that support within their neighborhood and within their community.
The centre gives its clients access to 17 social aid services, all under one roof.
To be able to have all the partners in one space where a woman can go and say, I need help, and all of us be there, working together to better support them, it's just huge and impactful for our community.
11 million Canadians
Safe Center leadership says today's funding announcement is welcome news.
What that means is that we're going to be able to count on the investment by the federal and provincial government to action our plan, to extend our services, increase the services in our community that we so desperately need.
The new Safe Center location is now open at 25 Capstan Drive, Mississauga. Tyler Cheese, CBC News,
Welcome back. The fate of Nathaniel Veltman is now in the hands of the jury. He's accused of killing 4 members of a Muslim family in a truck attack in 2021. The 22-year-old pleaded not guilty to 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of attempted murder, as well as terror-related charges. Thomas Dagla is following the trial for us.
After more than 10 weeks of proceedings at Nathaniel Veltman's trial, there's plenty of evidence the jury didn't hear about the deadly attack on the Afzal family, like 2 surprise admissions found in a forensic psychiatrist's report. In August of last year, Dr. Julian Goger wrote Veltman told him he wants to plead guilty. Then again 3 months later, the doctor wrote Veltman was simply insisting on pleading guilty. Something later changed. And this past September, at the outset of his murder trial, Veltman pleaded not guilty.
What we, I think, in the community are really asking for is justice in the fullest sense. I think there is confidence.
Uthman Quick speaks for the National Council of Canadian Muslims. They've kept in touch with family members of the victims.
You can only imagine the difficulty of having to listen to some of the details that have come out during the trial.
The night before the June 2021 attack, Veltman testified he hit the road to Toronto, his mind in a dreamlike state, still reeling from a magic mushroom trip. The jury didn't hear there's evidence Veltman had a different target in mind. Prosecutors revealed directions to Toronto's Women's College Hospital were found on Veltman's smartphone. He had already told police he had considered targeting abortion providers, and investigators found a list of abortion clinics in his apartment.
When people enact this kind of terrorist violence, they want to become heroes and celebrated and remembered by others and inspire others.
In his closing arguments, the Crown Attorney alleged Veltman carried out the attack to strike fear in all Muslims and to inspire other white nationalists to commit more violence. The verdict is now in the hands of the jury. Thomas Dagg, CBC News, Windsor, Ontario.
Back here in Toronto, firefighters were busy this morning with a 3-alarm fire at a downtown row house. Crews were called to River Street near Gerrard just after 6 a.m., and they arrived to find flames coming from the 2nd level of a home. There were no reports of injuries, but some occupants of adjacent houses had to leave and shelter on TTC buses. The cause of the fire is under investigation. All right, warm days, but chilly evenings, and that is the drill for the next couple of days. Let's get back to Victor Paulo.
Chris, hope you're having yourself a lovely night. Now, one thing to note, looking at the map of North America here, we can see the cooling down finally coming as you look at the west coast. You see that blue working its way down. That's that cooler temperatures. Long and gone are the days of the oranges and the reds as it's spread all across the country. As you can see, seasonal temperatures here all the way down to the GTA, 15 degrees and -1 in St. John's. But look at that, 15 degrees. One of the warmest places in the great north. Right here in Toronto. We gotta love that. Now, when it comes to some watches and warnings, one thing we can note is we are experiencing a bit of severe wind in these regions right here, but that severe wind's only gonna last till about midnight on Friday. Now, here's what's going on when looking at the maps. We can see it was a clear day today. Now, that clear day was the result of that beautiful weather. No clouds to stop that sun or stop that heat from working its way in. Another thing to note when it does come to what we're expecting when it comes to Thursday and Friday, a little bit of increase of cloud cover. Now, the reason that cloud cover is coming in a lot stronger the closer we get to Friday is because of Friday's rain. And that Friday rain is going to be coming in right around Friday to start your day. And it's going to last all the way through to almost the start of Saturday morning. But once Saturday morning starts, all of that will be behind us. Chance of scattered showers throughout the weekend, but the good news is nothing will be lasting longer than about 24-ish hours. Now, here's what it looks like for the temperatures for tonight. It's going to be 1 degree, feeling like -1. Bit of cloud cover, but it will be a chilly night. Make sure you're prepared if you're outdoors to bundle up, because you don't want to be outside without the proper layers. Now speaking of layers, looking at a 3- and 7-day forecast, you can see there's going to be a beautiful Thursday. That 13 on Friday looks great, but unfortunately, as we did see, it's going to be majority of rain for the day. It's going to drop down to 0 degrees, and you can see once that rain passes, the temperatures will be dropping around the GTA. 5 degrees will be the high for Saturday, 7 degrees for Sunday, 3 degrees for Monday, and back to 7 for Tuesday, and a 5 for Wednesday. A little bit of seasonal, a little bit of below seasonal, but you know what? Before we get to those cooler temperatures, how about that beautiful day today, and how about that beautiful Thursday we got up next? Hope you have yourselves a good night, and over to you, Chris.
Yeah, looking forward to it. All right, thank you, Victor. An important collab to tell you about tonight. The Toronto Raptors and Sinai Health are teaming up to raise $1 million this year for medical research. Raptors superfan Nav Bhatia was at the fundraiser's kickoff this morning.
So good to see sports like basketball, beautiful sports, my favorite, in bringing all the people together and doing so much for a very, very good cause.
The Raptors for Research campaign's flagship event is a 3-on-3 basketball tournament in March, and registration is now open. Teams must raise at least $2,500 to enter, but all funds will go to Sinai Health's Lennenfeld Tannenbaum Research Institute. All right, stay with us. We'll be right back. Finally tonight, we might still have a couple of weeks to go until the holidays, but it is certainly starting to feel a lot like Christmas in the city.
Everyone! Nice.
And that is Toronto's own Bare Naked Ladies, the band hosting this year's tree lighting ceremony at the Eaton Centre. Hundreds crowded the halls for the unveiling, and the Christmas tree is making a reappearance this year, standing taller than ever before.
A true holiday landmark and the largest indoor Christmas tree in North America, right here in Toronto.
3, 2, 1.
Looks beautiful, and today's ceremony kicks off the Christmas season at the shopping center. And as for the lighting of the nearly 35-meter-tall tree, it now switches between different holiday-inspired colors and patterns. Such a wonderful time of year, and that is our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Have a great night, everyone.